we're now going to just focus in on a disease area, actually, with a suggestion that we would have a look at one area. So we're going to have a little look at diabetes. I know it's relevant, but particularly to certain people who are living with it themselves. So I know we're a little bit more of a sort of smaller group, so perhaps we can move the chairs up. And Tanya's going to talk a little bit about some of the things specifically around diabetes, and it might just trigger some sort of thoughts focusing on one area about how we might take some things forward that we've heard. Again, with this perspective of how do we actually encourage people with long-term conditions to follow a person-centred approach, and how do we as a system manage to support that, and what sort of things do we do?
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tanya, and I'm one of the health managers down at ShipShape, and one of my sort of delivery hats in there is to sort of run diabetes self-management programs within ShipShape, covering the areas around there. So what I'm going to talk about today is looking at how we developed the model, and sort of where it started from and what we're actually doing now. And then we've got a little case study from one of our clients. Okay. So ShipShape started originally with sort of looking at doing the diabetes self-management program, which is a 6 weeks program, which is sort of tailored around to people that are living with diabetes, but was open to people that are actually supporting people that are going through diabetes as well. I'll talk a bit more about that a bit later on. Before we sort of developed the diabetes self-management program, within ShipShape there's a program which is the Desmond, which was sort of run by trained nurses for patients that were type 2 diabetes and sort of needed support to sort of manage that condition. But I think you trialled that for 2 years, it picked up that it wasn't actually meeting the needs of the clients within the area. It was a great program in itself, full of resources, but it wasn't actually meeting the needs in terms of the length of the sessions, being quite medical, and wasn't really picking up how they can actually support people on a long-term basis to sort of self-manage their conditions. So when I was brought in, I was asked to sort of look at how the Desmond could actually meet the needs of the community. And one of the things that came out was that the way it was delivered probably needed to change to sort of meet the needs of the community. I'll talk a bit more about the education programme a bit later on. So that's where originally the education programme came from. So we talked to the local GPs in the area, we talked to people that were accessing the Desmond to look at what would actually work for them. And that's where the education programme started. So over the years we kind of developed what we call sort of like a core programme of diabetes self-management. So we went from Desmond to a diabetes education programme, but now we have a lot more services for people with diabetes and that. We do actually work with a lot of GPs that we originally did at this point, which is a great thing for us, because I remember when I first came into post, GPs didn't really want to know us. And sort of looking back at it now, I think that was more to do with sort of building the relationship, looking at sort of the education programme does actually meet the needs of the patients that they are working with. And that over the years has sort of grown quite positively. One of the aims for us within the programme is to actually support individuals and the families that they're sort of living with, to understand their diabetes and to support them to make a sort of long-term healthy lifestyle changes. So not just about coming to the programme and sort of leaving after there, but actually fitting a programme that sort of supports them to manage it on a long term within their sort of day-to-day journey. So just sort of roughly going through who we support and what we do. In a year, we just sort of within the diabetes programme, there's about 80 people and families that we sort of support. There's more than half of these clients that are then referred on to other services, such as GPs, eye screening, food banks, podiatrists, and some of the other services there. So it's not just about focusing on diabetes, because it's massive, just in terms of what services people are accessing and what is actually missing in terms of what services are actually there for them. Majority of our clients, oops.
No. Down the bottom. It's from the bottom.
The bottom left?
No,
Way down the bottom. Way
that's it.
Anyway.
So the majority of our clients that access the diabetes service are from the BME community, living with wider families, isolated, low in confidence and self-esteem, which will be sort of the main ones. But obviously, we don't exclude that services for anyone else. So the diabetes model at ShipShape currently is from just having the diabetes education programme. The start of it was the education programme, which has actually led us to talk to clients that are accessing the service to look at what more is actually needed for them, or other people that are in the community that are actually struggling, who probably we aren't reaching out to. So one of the models that started from there was the one-to-one diabetes support, which sort of works a lot with the health trainers and the health champions. So the education programme sort of, what we are getting is a lot of women that are attending that programme, which is great, but we identified that we're missing the men. So we looked at, well, we could tailor the one-to-ones that included the men to access the service, and it's still sort of on a developing role. The education in itself is very practical, so it's more about looking at the education and then looking at practical ways of how people can, for example, cook a healthy meal, look at what the actual numbers mean when they are actually going to the GPs and getting themselves tested. Looking at what things like cholesterol are, and actually understanding the medical terms into how they then put them into practice regarding the lifestyle changes. And it's about sort of looking at how they self-manage themselves rather than relying on probably a GP or probably some of the health professionals that are supporting them. We sort of developed a Ramadan programme which is looking at how people might fast safely throughout Ramadan. And a lot of that is, when we talk to some of the GPs, a lot of the issues there where people were still fasting, but without access to the right support sort of around their medication, which is causing a lot of sort of high and low sugar levels. So we created a programme which we're currently working with Diabetes UK on, around how you can actually educate yourself to look at what are the best and safer ways of fasting. So we're not stopping people from fasting because it's a religious cause, but how can we actually educate people to be able to fast more safely. And then we do family support, which is not probably as probably what I would have wanted sort of the programme to pick up, and that's a lot of that is sort of down to the lack of resources we have. So the family support, we get individuals that might come to us, but they're living in wider family homes, so like you'll get the in-laws, or you've got a lot wider family there. And the problem becomes where if that individual is, for example, making the meals throughout the day, and they could be sort of very high in fat and not, which is sort of help increasing their sugar levels if they are sort of having the same meals and not following that healthy diet. So the programme is looking at how do we actually change the whole family way of going forward. It's not an easy one, but that individual, if they're living in a wider family, one of the issues they have is looking at how they can actually give time to themselves as well as the wider family. And the best approach with that was actually making a whole family change, which is a very sort of drip sort of step towards that. We've heard a lot about health trainers today, and they sort of support clients with diabetes, which sort of helps the service, and they're sort of based in the GP surgeries as well as sort of the community venues. So how these services were developed, we are sort of commissioned by Sheffield City Council to deliver the diabetes self-management programme, but for us it was also about what we wanted to make sure that what we are delivering does actually meet the needs of the community, and we are actually making a difference through those programmes. So here's what we did. So we trained up community health champions to sort of become diabetes champions, to then sort of go out and talk to people in the community about what would support them with their diabetes, and what was missing, what we were doing, but what more we could do to actually reach out wider. So the champions went out to places like GPs, hospital, community group, and existing clients who were attending the programme, and places like the local mosques and the churches, to then draw back to sort of around sort of minimum. We had spoken to about 100 people, but from that we sort of formed a group of people that came back and said, you know, we want to get involved, not just to learn for ourselves, but to actually look at what is actually best for our community, and sort of what is best for our neighbours who are actually suffering then. So it weren't just the people that were with diabetes, yes, it does go back
Sounds
to the
familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
CPR.
So it is, I mean, it's more of that worked, and we've been trying it out for years. And then you've got the people involved in there that are actually saying, this is what I need, and this is what would actually make us benefit from what is happening. And sort of just looking at the referral path, we do get people referred from GPs. We do get a lot of self-referrals and other agencies. So we would do an assessment, refer to appropriate services, which would be any of these. And I'm just talking about the diabetes services, but there's a lot of other stuff happening within ShipShape and in the area. So they were all sort of overlapping to what is the appropriate service for that individual. They will then sort of go out to the health champions who will offer the practical support. So if someone's not accessing physical activity, which we find a lot of clients that are coming to us will sort of just probably stick to their medication. That would be the answer for them. And then when they do go to the education programme, they actually realise there's more to life than just the medication. That's not the answer. So with them being sort of very isolated, not connected, we sort of join them up with our trained health champions. They would then sort of buddy them into places like physical activity sessions, and other sort of cook and eat sessions, but actually be a buddy that would actually encourage them and support them. Because what you would find, what I have found, that the clients that are coming forward, they are eager to sort of learn more and actually take that step forward, but they just need that hand holding to be able to say yes, they can do it. And then we do refer to other sort of referrals. And some of our health champions are our previous clients that have accessed our services, which kind of gives it more of that sort of feel of talking to someone that is actually understanding what they are saying. And this is just some of the quotes that we got back from some of the clients. So going from sort of feeling very sort of isolated and not connected into sort of feeling less strength since having come to the open days. By attending the open days, I have the opportunity to socialise with other women who have some needs as I do, but I don't feel judged. And there's various different quotes in there which are quite similar, and I think just sort of summing it up is some of the things Amia said earlier about education, which I sort of advocate quite a lot. And I found that with the diabetes programme, once the clients have got the education, they are actually running with it. You know, they are able to ask the GP about, you know, what services I could access if they aren't accessing it, using the medical terms, and just being able to sort of say, this is what I actually need to sort of better my education, diabetes. So I think the education side plays a big part within an individual's sort of lifestyle when they are living with long-term education, and then sort of being able to support them to self-manage that condition, because that is then what's going to stick with them and stay with them even sort of if we're not in it as well.
Brilliant. Is that fantastic? That's great. Thank you very much.